Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is the 29th of May Backdrop CMS documentation meeting. We're just going to do a fairly short meeting. We're just going to talk about some changes that we've made to the documentation site to enable us to add pages for documentation for modules. One of the reasons for this is so we can get the information in a searchable place, so it can be more easily found than GitHub wikis. My name is Martin Price, Yorkshire Pudding around Backdrop. And we'll go to Tim.
Yeah, my name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim in the community, and I'm here on a sunny day in Deerwood, Minnesota. And I don't know, Justin, if you want to introduce yourself quick. I know you said you're not going to say much, but you could say hi.
Yeah. Hi, Justin Kaiser, Kaiser JB on the internet, and I'm just hanging around listening to what we have to say here.
Thank you, Justin. It's nice knowing you're there. Okay. So yeah, we talked about Martin just doing a quick demo of what has been set up so far and how it works. And this is very much a work in progress. But I think the goal, as I understand it, is to show sort of where things are at and encourage people to do primarily two things. One is to help us contribute towards getting documentation onto the doc site because this is a new thing. So there's really only a couple of nodes there already, and it isn't going to be useful until we start seeing larger quantities. So one, to help us start that migration, which we don't is so far all planned to be all manual, but two, to get feedback. So once we'd like people to start using and migrating that documentation and letting us know like how the process is working, making suggestions how to make it better, and sort of making it more usable. We're going to see that there's a big design and navigation issues right now that we haven't sort of sorted out yet. But we feel like until we actually get some content, once we get some content in, it'll be easier to resolve those. Does that make sense? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I have two tabs open, one with me logged in and one when I'm not. Martin, do you want to navigate or talk? Can I navigate or should
Yeah, so let's first of all we'll look at where you can find the existing add-on documentation. So if you look on the sidebar in the directory, directly under the user guide, there is a link to add-on documentation. And that's where we'll currently find it. So if we now scroll down a bit on that page, so at the moment we just have 3 modules there. What we might end up with it is more, I think, for example, when I add B, I think that will be an other type of add-on because it's not a module theme or layout template. So I think that will be the first other when I add that. But so the idea being is that you have a project page, and that's the top level that we see here. And then we can have we could just have that top level module page, and that would still be useful. It will still help people looking for it, they will find it on when they search for Backdrop CMS and the module name on Google, it will appear. So it's still useful just having a module page, but we can add sub pages that will then be easily found. So here we've got a sub page of a domain module that is and I think it's the way that that's right, it's the parent page. So if you link it to the parent page, then it will appear below it. So and that kind of makes it easy to keep the documentation together and make it easy to see at a glance all the different guides. Do you want to go back to the add-on documentation and perhaps look at some of the other ones just for examples of what might be useful to do? So there is, well, on the domain, what we saw was the start of documentation for how to set up the module and a particular aspect of that. And now here we've got a module where I've provided extensive documentation about what the different features are, what you can do. And then if we go to the sub page for that, we've got specific examples about how you can use the token content access nodes module with views, and how you might do particular a particular task where you want to display something from a view block. So that's just one example of how you can do it, and this kind of mirrors what happens in the wiki. That there's we might start off with the detail of how to do the different parts of the module, and some modules have a lot more than others in that, and it might get down to we're going to add a specific example of how to do things in a particular way. So, and this particular module, it actually got ported to answer a question, and so I've used that question as a working example of how to use the module on a child page. So this is kind of how we're starting, and what would be good is if we can get more modules there, get the information in there, start linking to the page from the README, so we can actually direct people there rather than to a wiki, and this will help. I guess the more that we have here, the critical factor, that one of the main reasons why we decided to start moving here is that the information in GitHub repo wikis for sake of argument, all of our none of our wikis are exposed to Google search. I think if you have a very large number of stars on your repo, then your wiki's locked down, then you can get it available to search, but none of our projects come anywhere near that number of stars. But yeah, we can start to see that in Google you can find if you start searching for a project for Backdrop CMS and it was listed in here, then it would appear. So
Get that number 2 result, just like you told us before.
Yeah.
So can I jump in and say a few things? First of all, anybody looking at this for the first time, there's some very obvious things about navigating this that are kind of clumsy and need improvements. And I think that we're aware of. What we're really looking for is how you would like it to work. So you don't need to tell us, for example, that I think the finding, to me, this is a little bit problematic. The add-on documentation sort of in the middle of the menu. It's not easy to find. It would seem like contrib documentation ought to be really easy to find, and so far it's not. But I think until we get more content here, we're not too worried about that. And also, we're just looking for the right way to do it. I think we want to avoid the thing where you open this up and there's 100 modules here. And so we're thinking about ways to navigate that. Right now, I'm noticing that if I go to the domain module, right, and then I wanted to go to the token module, there is no navigation like back to where I was. I would have to basically go here, add-on documentation, and then go to the token module. And it isn't necessarily the 2 clicks that bother me as it is that the 2 clicks that are both kind of in obscure places, like in the middle of this list and then at the bottom. So figuring out a better way to do that. We do have this block which that gets added. So within the module you're looking at, if there's multiple pages, you'll be able to navigate those within an individual module. But there's no way to go to another module except to go back to the add-on documentation, scroll to the bottom, and then there's a list here or a search, right? So that's kind of how it's working now. And ideas on how to fix that and make it better, I assume, would be welcome, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's worth quickly showing people that, like, this is the configurable block styles module, right? And if I go back a few, I think I started on the project page, and it's worth pointing out a few things that we're aware of. For now, when you click on this configurable block style, that takes you to the wiki. That originally it was intended that the wiki would kind of be the documentation page, but as Martin has pointed out, 1, this isn't Google searchable. 2, very, very few of our modules have wikis. I would say 1% maybe actually have, or maybe less than 5% for sure, have wiki pages. So for the most part right now, I think the only documentation we're getting is the README, and then the README, of course, shows up on the project page. So the README is the main documentation we have for most modules right now. Right? Am I missing anything there? But that's sort of how things work. So
that's how things work. And there is, I think there is a model within the README to be able to have a link to the documentation site, and there's a number of projects that have just kind of copied the default template and linked to a non-existent wiki, which is not ideal. But what we would like to see when we get this stuff in the docs site, that we link there, and then it will link not just from the GitHub repo where the README is visible, but also on the backdropcms.org project page where the README is presented on that module, on that project page. So we'll get links there, and that will help us help us help people looking for modules.
I'm sorry, my mind drifted a bit. And you might have insinuated this, but it occurred to me that one of the things we could do, which we don't have yet, is automatic links back to like the GitHub project.
Yeah.
If that, or at least like download or to the project page on backdrop.org. At the very
Yeah.
minimum, I think it would be nice to like automatically link to the project page on backdrop.org. So in case so where there would be a download button, right? So if you wanted to download this, we might even talk about whether or not there should be a download link here, but that's getting ahead of ourselves, I think. The Oh, I was sort of pointing out, I randomly went to just to backdrop contrib in GitHub, and I just took the most recently updated contrib module. And you'll see that pretty much there should, although this may depend on your permissions, if you don't have permissions and a wiki hasn't been created yet, you might not see this link. I think I've heard that this link isn't always there unless it's been created. But the point being is that I think in 95 to 99% of the modules, if you click on the wiki, you're just going to get this, a blank wiki. So this module is not at all atypical, and that currently the only documentation is the README, and most of the README is, well, does this one even have a release yet? This isn't really fair because this module doesn't even have a release yet. Let's scroll down to one. UberCard isn't exactly a good example either. I'm thinking of what?
Paragraphs does.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go with something like that's a smaller module that's less like Paragraphs has probably got more documentation than others. This is pretty typical, right? We've got an introductory paragraph and then maybe like how to configure the module. And that's it. And that might be enough.
Yeah.
And for a lot of modules, that's really all you need because a lot of small, simple modules are fairly self-explanatory,
Mhm.
right? They do one or two things, and you just need to know
Mhm.
where to like turn it on, that or if it needs to be turned on,
Mhm.
right? That's when I hate it when I download a module and I can't find the config for it, and I don't know like is it just doing something or what is it doing or
Yeah.
right?
I think the other thing to
Mhm.
which would be worth flagging up is this first paragraph underneath the title is actually really important because if you're searching on for a list of modules on backdropcms.org or you're searching in the project browser, the project browser actually uses the text that in there. So you search for a particular keyword and it happens to be in that text, then it will help you find it. So it's a good place to make sure that you cover the features of a module with and think carefully about the words that people might use. And the key features that people might be searching for, and that will help people to find that module if they search for the feature and it finds it.
Sure. So anyways, this is sort of how documentation currently works. Again, we would like to get it into the site. If you have permissions on the doc site and want to help out, you can create, there's a new content type called contrib documentation. So you can create a new page for an existing module. You do not have to be the maintainer of the module. We'll talk a little bit about this, and we're still making this all up. So Martin and I may disagree or change our minds on things in the course of this conversation, but what we were talking about ahead of this is it's obviously preferable that you know something about the module that you're helping to port the documentation of, so that you could sort of review it and maybe flush it out or make it a little bit better as you're adding it. But in my opinion, that's not a prerequisite. That right now we just need to get some of the documentation ported. And if the only thing we have is what's in the, do I still, oh, I forget which tab I was using. But anyways, if the only thing we have is the README, that's a perfectly legitimate place to start, would be to just cut and paste it. And get it started. Again, you don't have to be the maintainer. I think it wouldn't hurt. We haven't talked about this before, so this is new. It wouldn't hurt to like open an issue in the issue queue saying, I'm copying the documentation to and linking to it, especially if you're not the maintainer. If you are the maintainer, that's maybe less important. But for example, if I were to do it for this module, in fact, why don't we just do it for this module, Martin, real quick, as an example?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and create a page. So I'm going to go back to the doc site and contrib documentation, and I think that should be capitalized, right? And then here for the project, I might actually leave that.
Mm.
What do you think? Should it be
Yeah,
capitalized?
I would leave it, and then
Right.
it leaves it open for us to link to.
No. Oh, I like this related projects, but that's getting ahead of myself. So we got the body. So let's go back, and then what I'm basically going to try doing is I'm going to copy and paste all of this, but I'm going to edit some of it out. But like we probably don't need the title and we don't need the installation instructions. And I'm going to try just pasting it normal. And actually that kind of works. Maybe we should leave that.
Take the title out at the top.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about pasting without formatting, but I actually think keeping the formatting works okay.
Yeah.
There is going to be some junk in here that wouldn't be there if we reformatted it ourselves. But I think that's okay. So yeah, so I just removed the title because we didn't need that, and I removed the part about how to install modules, which is just template language, right? Now the parent page, we would only need that if we were a subpage of another existing module. So for example, I know there's a domain module. I could make this a subpage, but we don't care about that. It would be great to link this to other related modules for CAPTCHA. Any other spam prevention modules might be a related project, but we don't really have enough of those yet to do this. So there, we've done it. We have now added the CAPTCHA module. And now if this is a quirky thing, we're seeing a little dot, even though there's no subpages. That's probably just a bug that needs to be fixed. If we go back to the add-on documentation now, CAPTCHA has been added to this list. Why don't we go back and do what we just said, which is create a issue to just let the module maintainer know that we adding documentation to docs.backdropcms.org. Okay. For this module on, did I paste that? There we go. I'm just going to say this is mostly informative, okay, to let the maintainer know we did this, but also to invite additional help with the documentation. There we go. And now it looks like Herb is the maintainer of this module. Is that, oh, this doesn't have a module. Well, Herb has sort of said that he's maintaining it until he gets someone else. So anyways, we've documented sort of what we did, right? Now somebody coming in the future can see that and find it. But anyways, that's really all that needs to happen to get a page into the documentation site. In order to do what I just did, you'll have to have an account on the documentation site. And I believe that anybody can create an account, but you do have to get approved. So this is me not logged in. So yes, there is a place to register. You'll have to fill out a form, and then I think it needs to be approved. Is that
Well,
right?
you're on the
Oh, I'm
you're
on
on
Backdrop
Backdrop
CMS.
CMS.
Yes.
You want to go to the
Yeah,
docs
I see what I
site.
did. Yeah, I see what I did. I gotta go to the doc site. Think over here I am. There, I'm on the doc site. So here, oh, there is no, okay, so there is no registered bot.
Oh yeah,
If
there
you
is
go
a
to the
create
login
one
page,
now.
yeah, then you
Yeah.
can create one. And again, though, I still think, so you're just gonna fill in your username and email address. I'm 99% sure, though, that you need to get approved. So,
Yeah.
you should contact us in Zulip if you're interested in doing this, and somebody can help approve you and give you edit access. We might want to consider whether or not we have a role for just contrib documentation. Right now, I think that the roles available in the doc site are, what are the roles? They're developer, editor, and then authenticated. So we would need to give you at least the editor role right now, which is important for us to think about, because we're suggesting, like, to Justin that he go and do this. Well, I don't know for sure if Justin has editor access, and there could be, yeah, we got to think about that, like how we're going to facilitate getting access to module maintainers, or how we want to handle that. So what do you
Yeah.
think? What's your name, Martin? Well, anything else that we should talk about
I
here?
I think we've probably covered everything. So I think yeah, Zulip's a good place to ping one
We
of
did,
us if you're wanting to get
yeah,
involved. And
we did create a special documentation channel in Zulip,
yeah,
which you're welcome to join, but you can just in the regular Backdrop channel.
yeah, you can just post anywhere.
Yeah, don't worry about like using the documentation channel, but if you're really interested, that would be a good thing to sign up for. I'm going to say one other thing, which is I do think that we should create like a blog post about this or something, a page that we can point people to get them sort of started. And in the future, no decisions have been made about this, but I could envision us creating some kind of a spreadsheet, like of all the contrib modules and the ones that have already been ported, so that we could recruit volunteers and say, hey, find some modules here that haven't been ported and import them, to port the documentation. If anybody has ideas about how to automate this at all, let us know. Otherwise, I would say we could just wrap up, huh?
Yeah, I think we'll wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, everybody. Be fun to get this documentation going, or this contrib documentation, to make it much more useful on the contrib side or the doc side.